For Louis Guy Detata, success doesn't come down to a single moment or big milestone. It usually shows up in the everyday parts of running a company, especially in what happens when he's not around. He watches how his team operates when he steps away and whether they can keep things moving without needing him to weigh in on every decision. In his mind, that's the clearest sign a business is doing well. Success isn't about micromanagement, he said. It's about empowerment. When I can take time away and the company continues to perform, that's the truest sign of success. Plenty of founders talk about trusting their teams, but few let go enough to let others lead. Detata learned early on that people do their best work when they're given room to make decisions, and he believes that independence only develops when responsibility is shared rather than controlled at the top. It's an idea carried throughout his career, including into the launch of UEXO.com, the global FX and CFD trading platform he leads today. Detata was born in Subiaco and grew up in Trigg, a suburb of Western Australia. He earned a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Western Australia, where he majored in finance and accounting and minored in business law. Before entering the finance industry, he spent a gap year traveling the world, not tied to any specific plan. Once he returned home, he began his career working for several of the world's leading investment banking institutions, gaining extensive experience across international financial markets. Those positions placed him around people who shaped his perspective on leadership and long-term value. His early mentors often pushed him to think past the technical parts of the job and consider how strong teams, trust, and consistency influence a company's direction. Early mentors in finance and entrepreneurship showed me that great businesses are not just about numbers but about people, he said. That realization shaped my path toward leadership, brand building, and global expansion. As time went on, Louis Detata became more familiar with the structure and demands of large financial institutions. Those years helped him build a strong foundation, but he eventually reached a point where he knew he wanted to pursue something of his own. Remaining in the industry would have meant continuing to follow strategies set by other people, while stepping out on his own would mean getting to create those strategies himself. One defining moment came when I transitioned from working within large financial institutions to building my own venture, he said. It forced me to reimagine what leadership meant. Once he branched out on his own, there were no templates to follow and no established structure to learn on. He had to decide what kind of business he wanted to build, how he wanted to make decisions, and who he trusted enough to work beside him. That initial stage is often the hardest because it asks entrepreneurs to trust their own judgment long before they've seen any results. For Detata, that uncertain phase ultimately made him more resilient and helped him understand the type of people he wanted in his corner. That experience taught me resilience, strategic clarity, and how to surround myself with exceptional people who share the same vision and values, he shared. It was a turning point that solidified my belief in autonomy, accountability, and long-term brand integrity. He also began to understand the kind of leader he wanted to be, pulling inspiration from different people along the way. It's difficult to narrow inspiration down to a single person because I've drawn lessons from many leaders, he said. One of those people was Elon Musk, whose ability to push bold ideas forward showed him what relentless execution looks like. Another was Steve Jobs, whose talent for designing products with emotional pull demonstrated how design and innovation can work together. He also looked to people in his immediate network for inspiration, including a former university classmate who built a highly successful FX brand. Watching someone from a similar starting point achieve that kind of success made the idea of building an international venture feel more attainable. It also reminded him that discipline, clear priorities, and smart timing often matter just as much as raw talent. In 2012, Louis Guy Detata launched his first online business in the fintech space, marking the beginning of his transition from traditional finance to digital innovation. I've always been drawn to the intersection of business, technology, and human behavior, he explained. That venture eventually led to what would become UEXO.com, where he combines global market insight with a technology-forward trading platform. Within UEXO, he places a strong emphasis on values like integrity, clarity, and consistency. I hold myself and my teams to a high standard because I've seen that strong values and consistent execution are what truly build reputation and trust over time, he said. In an industry where it can be easy to chase quick wins and short-term momentum, he's more focused on progress that can withstand different market cycles. I'm proud of having built and scaled businesses across multiple regions and not just in terms of revenue, but in building a culture of performance and trust, he said. It's not one single moment, but the consistency of execution and growth over time that I value most. Detata also keeps in touch with many of the people he worked with years ago. Those long-standing relationships have lasted through various stages of his career, something he considers one of his proudest achievements. Despite running an international business, he doesn't compromise on his routine, starting each morning with physical activity, a clear set of goals, and quiet time for reflection. I make fitness, sleep, and mental clarity non-negotiables, he said. Sustainable performance comes from balance, not burnout. Experience has taught him that managing stress isn't about avoiding pressure, but about having habits and routines that help him deal with it in a healthier way. That means delegating work when he needs more support, keeping things in perspective, and carving out time for family, travel, and anything else that helps him reset. Outside of work, Louis Detata is a father of 3 and shares his life with his partner, Tamika Payne. They enjoy traveling together, and he has a personal interest in trying different kinds of wine. Giving back to others remains an important part of his life, whether done anonymously or directly. I've often preferred to support causes quietly rather than publicly, he shared. My focus has been on helping individuals and families under financial or emotional pressure, whether through structured donations or direct personal assistance. He also supports causes that promote mental health awareness, access to education, and initiatives that benefit his local community. To him, even small gestures can make a big difference. He still remembers a time when he helped someone facing financial hardship get back on their feet. It wasn't about a grand gesture, just giving them breathing room, removing immediate pressure, and showing that someone cared, he said. Moments like that reflect the values Detata speaks about most. To him, leadership isn't measured solely by results. It's about using what you have to help others. When he looks back on his personal and professional life, it's the times he was able to make things easier for someone else that feel the most meaningful.